Good day, everyone. My name is Ashley Icamen. I'm an experienced design manager at Atlassian here in Sydney, Australia. I've been in the field of technical writing and content design since 2009, and I started my career in Atlassian back in May 2015. I'm currently managing both content designers and product content designers in our ecosystem platform team. Today, I'll be sharing with you our experience improving the information architecture of one of our content sets. We wanted to make sure that our information architecture and that content set was intuitive enough so that our audience can connect to the content itself more easily. So let's get started. I'll quickly run through the agenda. Firstly, we'll define what information architecture is all about and why it's relevant to the success of content. Secondly, we'll talk about the user needs that information architecture must address. Next, we'll deep dive into our journey redesigning the IA of the Portfolio for Jira documentation. Portfolio for Jira is one of our products here at Atlassian. And then we'll also chat about what we learned embarking in that journey. And lastly, I'll give you a summary of the tools and resources that may help you in your own content journey. But first, a bit of gardening. As I'm currently a people manager at Atlassian, everything I'll be sharing with you today actually took place back in 2019, when I was still the content designer for Portfolio for Jira, the server version. Portfolio for Jira has since been rebranded into Advanced Roadmaps for Jira, and that's across both our cloud to server offerings. Because the IA redesign happened before the rebranding, you'll see some content in the slides still using the old name. I didn't change any of those to preserve the integrity of our experience. I also want to acknowledge that I had worked with Karen Bywater on this IA initiative for Portfolio for Jira. This was a team effort. So Karen and I used to be the content designers for Portfolio for Jira, and Karen has since become a content strategist in our design platform team. Go, Karen. So let's start with this very relevant quote from usability.gov. Information architecture focuses on organizing, structuring, and labeling content in an effective and sustainable way. The goal is really to help users find information and complete tasks. The way I see it, information architecture can either make or break any content set. I've seen a lot of people, unfortunately, underestimate the influence that IAs have over the success of content sets. Some people may think that their docs are broken because of missing or outdated content. Some people think it might be the platform or the tools that they're using. They might not be at par with the times. Most of the time, though, taking a closer look at the IA of a content set could be your first solid step towards fixing content that's poorly performing. To simplify that quote, information architecture is all about organizing content in a way that it can be understood by your users in the easiest manner. So it's about making it easy for your users to find the content that they need so that they can consume it and use it to do the thing that led them into the docs in the first place. You give them the content they need, and then you get out of their way. Now, IAs can be found everywhere, not just in content sets. So the image on the left shows you the product documentation of Portfolio for Jira at the time. And the image on the right is one of our in-app IAs for the configuration section of the plans in Portfolio for Jira. And no matter the shape or form of an IA, whether it's in a content set or in the product itself, or a random website on the internet, there are 4 user needs that an IA needs to address: known item seeking, exploratory seeking, exhaustive research, and refinding. Known item seeking, this is when a user knows about this thing, but they want to know more about it. So they go through the docs, peruse the docs to look for more information. This is a typical user scenario, I would say. Exploratory seeking is kind of a step backwards, because this is when a user has an idea of that thing that they want information about, but they're not sure what exactly they want to know. So they come to the docs and explore. Exhaustive research is taking a step further. This is when a user knows about that one thing and they're looking to find as much information as possible about that thing. A typical use case for this would be someone doing a competitive analysis of some tools or products. So they're on the hunt to know more about this thing that they're interested in. And lastly, refinding. This is when a user needs to know information about that thing again. So they come looking for more content. They come back essentially to look for more content. So let's take a look at this quote. This is a super relevant quote in information architecture. Findability precedes usability. You can't use what you can't find. It's simple as that. You cannot use what you cannot find. This is indeed one of the main problems we were experiencing with the IA of portfolio docs before. So the completeness and technical accuracy of any content set, they don't matter. They really don't matter if your users can't find the content that they're looking for in the first place. The portfolio docs IA had become quite clunky over time, like really becoming clunkier and clunkier as we were rolling out, releasing new features over the years. And we had already received heaps of feedback from our users around navigation issues. They're having difficulty finding this page, having difficulty finding that piece of content. They'd come to us and say, oh, I can't find this in the docs. Well, actually, it is in the docs. It's just really nested way down below. So we knew that we were definitely overdue for some IA improvements. And so we sought to do just that. Right from the start, we had a mission, a North Star to track against. Our mission was simple. We wanted to know if our users can easily find information that helps them complete top tasks in Portfolio for Jira. If the answer to that is no, then we wanted to gain insights on how to rework the IA of our content set so users can find information easily. Bit of a segue here, because I've just introduced the concept of top tasks. Top tasks are essentially a small set of tasks that are the most important to your users. You can think of them as the core tasks that your users are trying to complete, are trying to do on your product in their day-to-day lives. So now that we had our mission down pat, we started the groundwork. And as with any content strategy project, a content audit is a solid first step. So what we did was audited all the pages in the portfolio docs, focusing on the following. We outlined what each page was trying to achieve. We gave each page some qualitative feedback. For instance, we would look at a page and just analyze how scannable is the content of that page. Are there any gaps? Are there any examples missing from the content? Things like that. And we also noted which pages have duplicate content. Of course, because we had heaps of feedback from users, we scoured that feedback and poured over all of that into this content audit that we did in this lovely spreadsheet. And the key insights that emerged from that audit, we knew we needed to address these three things: duplicate information, ambiguous page titles, and hidden information. So we were aware that duplicate information was really existing on multiple pages, because as any content set grows over time, it just becomes too easy to go into execution mode and just write and publish content that may already exist on some other pages. So duplication happened. It just snowballed over time. Secondly, there were several ambiguous page titles in our content set. For instance, discovering portfolio, and overview. Which is which? What's the distinction between the page titles, between the content on those pages? Because they kind of sound like they're serving the same purpose, giving an overview about portfolio for JIRA so you can discover about the product. Yeah, so it was too ambiguous. And lastly, there were also key information hidden in child pages. So as I mentioned before, there was just a lot of too much nesting on our page tree, unfortunately. So users couldn't find relevant information because it's just hidden too many levels, too deep in the page tree. So the second step, now that we know the things we want to address, we needed to come up with real life user tasks and scenarios that portfolio users would deal with in their day-to-day lives. This way, we're sure that we're tracking our IA testing against real life usage of portfolio for JIRA. Back to top tasks. With the help of of course, the lovely Karen, our product manager, our engineering leads, a few engineers as well, and our marketing manager, we came up with a list of top tasks that comprise the typical end-to-end user journey in portfolio. So the 11 tasks you see on the slide are the core tasks that users do in portfolio. I should also add that showing our engineering counterparts the results of our content audit, as well as the docs feedback we collected, really helped in getting their support with this step of coming up with the top tasks in portfolio for JIRA. We showed them a problem, we proposed this solution, and they just owned it. It just like really supported us full on, which felt really good. Back to top tasks. When you're doing this kind of exercise, you typically stick with 5 to 10 tasks maybe, but our research at the time suggested that both tasks 10 and 11 would most likely be of equal importance to our users. So we decided to include both of them and just have a list of 11 tasks instead. I should also add here that these tasks are actually ranked in a way, like a lot of portfolio users would want to know how work is impacting other work. So that's one of the top tasks of the top task list, if that makes sense. Okay, so based on the top tasks, we then wrote scenarios in the form of questions. These questions we would then ask our users, our participants in the IA testing. And for each question, we indicated the correct page that we hoped users would land on. This is essentially the page that contains the information for each of those scenarios, each of those questions. So as you can see on the slide, we're essentially asking users, what page do they think would help them if they wanted to know how to extend the date when a piece of work would be finished? So essentially moving the deadline, right? Moving the deadline of a piece of work. What page would contain that information? So that's how we framed all of the scenarios into questions. Oh, and one very important thing to remember here is you need to write the task in simple and easy words. Simple and easy, keep it simple and easy. You need to make it easy for the users, for the participants to fully understand the task at hand. If they don't understand the task in the first place, they might not get to the page that would tell them how to do the task. Or they could, but it would take them a long time to find that page. And that pretty much skews the IA test results. So it's important to keep it simple, short, concise. Moving on to step 3, after fleshing out the tasks and scenarios, we were then ready to do some tree testing. We needed to do this to achieve our baseline. Our baseline is essentially the starting point for how good or bad our current IA was. So you need to set the baseline. You need to determine that before you iterate, before you improve on your IA. Pre-testing is a technique used to test findability within an architecture. So TreeJack is one of the recommended tools for tree testing. We also use TreeJack in our tree testing. And how we did it was we uploaded our current IA and the top tasks that we envisioned. We uploaded all those to TreeJack. And then we sourced our participants using usertesting.com. So this way, with a combination of TreeJack and user testing, we could then watch the testing sessions and literally hear our users talk through why they were choosing the pages that they did. So from that initial round of testing to get our baseline IA, we discovered that out of all the tasks completed by the participants, only 36% successfully ended up at the correct page. So only 36. A healthy IA should have a score of above 70%. Our baseline, 36%, a bit low. So, oh yeah, one other thing, TreeJack is actually pretty cool that it also shows a directness score, which is at 49%. This score is the percentage of participants who did not backtrack at all when selecting an answer, whether the answer was correct or incorrect. That essentially means the user did not go back to any page they previously clicked on. User pretty much clicked unique pages, so to speak. So this is an attempt to measure how certain participants were in selecting their answers. Though it's really important to note that you should not assume too much about what your participants were thinking. You shouldn't assume too much why they were like really clicking through, pretty sure of their answers or not, because this is all subjective. But yeah, pretty cool that TreeJack offers that as well. Another cool thing about TreeJack is you can use this pie tree view, which shows you the path that users took before submitting the response. So in the task on the slide, we were asking users how they would find information about tracking the releases of their team in a single view. So the correct page for this task would be managing releases. That would be the task here in the yellow circle around managing releases. And as you can see, most of the participants went down the right path, like from the home, from the root of the documentation. That's a solid, thick green line. So that is the right path, essentially. And because it's thick, that means most of the participants, a lot of participants went down there compared to the users who went through getting started, for instance, because it's not too thick a line. So again, you can see participants going down the right path, most of them, and then nominated the right answer. But obviously you can see some blue sections there around managing teams and releases, and even the managing releases page, there's a blue section, a blue part of the pie chart. These are the blue sections showing that participants did go back to previous pages along the way, even if they ended up with the correct answer. And we watched all of the user testing sessions in detail. We documented all of the remarks the users made along the way, because when we introduced the test to the participants, we basically told them that, yeah, please think aloud. Let us know what you're thinking while you're clicking through the pages. So that's very relevant feedback, because you literally have a sneak peek into the thought process of the participants. So based on all of the feedback we gathered for that initial round of testing, we then sparred on how we might redesign the IA for the next iteration. But obviously, at a baseline score of 36%, we were a bit sad. Cute dog, but sad dog. But we were committed to improving. So there's really no way to go but up, surely. So our next step was to iterate on the IA and retest. We took to the whiteboard. This was obviously 2019, pre-pandemic, we were still at the office. We had our flashy whiteboards all over the place. So we hashed out on the whiteboard how we might redesign the IA. We even gave our IA a new name, Wallaby. I don't think it's on the whiteboard. No, I don't think it's there. Yeah, I don't think we wrote it down. But the name of the IA is Wallaby. So key differences in the IA. We reduced the number of second tier navigation items, second level nesting, essentially. We reduced that as much as possible. We also introduced a new user guide group. That's because during the baseline testing, we actually heard users saying things like, oh no, I wouldn't go to the admin section to complete this task. They pretty much saw a few pages on the content set and assumed that they were admin tasks, but we didn't have a user task counterpart for that. So we decided to experiment with it, roll out a new user guide group. And we were hoping that this would give a clear distinction between admin and user tasks. And then we aggregated some child pages up to their parent pages to remove hidden information, or sorry, to reveal hidden information better. And we also relabeled a bunch of pages wherever necessary. And this time we got a success score of 53%. That's a big leap from 36. So we were stoked, really stoked. The directed score also jumped from 49 to 56. But again, directed score is a bit subjective. So we were really focused on the success score. Oh, and as you can see on the bar chart there, the green bars are just slightly over the red bars, which pretty much tells us that we're on the right track. So that's good. Again, I have to reiterate, user testing sessions are very critical to this process, because by thinking out loud, with users thinking out loud, you would literally hear them say what made them choose a page of the IA. They'd share what they would expect to see in the pages that they click through. And it's really valuable feedback. Without user testing, you'd miss out on these interactions, and you'd often be just left to speculate why users end up clicking on this page or that page. So you lose that context. So comparing the two IAs, our baseline and our Wallaby IAs, you can definitely see that the Wallaby IA has more direct success. Green bars specifically, there's just more of them. So we were excited. And same as before, we went through all of the user testing sessions in full detail. It was a more pleasant binge session, so to speak, with more positive results. And we took all of those feedback, we took all of those in to rework our next iteration. Pretty much sums up how we were feeling with that high improvement. But of course, we were out to hit the goal of 70%. A healthy IA has to score at least 70%. So we were onto the next step, which is to rinse and repeat. And we then carved out our next iteration. We called it the Wombat IA, where we have both of the admin guide and user guide sections, both of them stay in the IA. We merged some pages wherever they made technical sense, like the pages around team capacity and teams themselves. We merged that into one overall teams page because it just makes sense. And we aggregated more pages to simplify the navigation experience. So the result, as you can see on the right side of the slide, is the Wombat IA, where you can see it's much cleaner than the Wallaby IA. And once we landed on that, we just couldn't wait to test it out with our participants. And test we did, but somehow, the success rate remains at 53%. The directed score did improve, 56 to 61. So yeah, small win. A small win is still a win. And looking at the bars, the green bars are still kind of, yeah, there are more green bars rather than the red and the orangey stuff. But overall, there's just nothing more more to it than that. So directness score improved, green bars kind of improved, but success rate just plateaued. We also doubled down on the user feedback that we got during this session. It pretty much echoes the feedback that we got from the previous iteration. So we were just at a loss, to be honest. We were expecting a big improvement, like the Wombat IA was looking much cleaner. But when we didn't get the improvement, we weren't exactly sure why. And so we took a huge step back to regroup. Like seriously, the only thing that Karen and I landed on after regrouping was the name of our next IA. We named it Squirrel. Beyond that, we didn't do anything. We just like took it all in, had a good 2 hours of just soaking in the confusion. And then the next day, we went back to the drawing board. We rewatched all of the user testing sessions, the baseline, the Wallaby, and the Wombat IAs. We rewatched all of them just to see if there was any relevant significance or significant differences that we should take into our next iteration. We also double checked the scenarios that we had written to see if we were asking ambiguous questions, maybe. So we made sure that we jumped back into our spreadsheet version of the page tree and spent a really long time making sure the tasks were very clear, crystal clear in the page titles. We also made sure that users could not perceive multiple pages containing the same information. So just removing any semblance of duplicate content. We also double checked the top tasks that we have been testing against. So you remember the list of 11 tasks that we have for Portfolio for Jira? We doubled down on those. And that's when we realized that task number 6 and number 9 actually a bit ambiguous. Ambiguous in the sense that allocating work and organizing issues can be misinterpreted as one and the same activity, when they're actually not one and the same in portfolio context. So when you're organizing issues in portfolio, or just organizing issues in the regular context in Jira or whatever work tracking tool you're using, you're actually ranking issues in terms of priority and urgency. And then when you're allocating work, allocating resources to work against that issue, that's when work allocation happens. So that's the nature of the ambiguity that's happening between task number 6 and number 9. So we decided to drop number 9 completely. And we now have a total of 10 top tasks for our next iteration. And the results that came back were just beautiful. The success rate jumped from 53 to 76. The directness score jumped from 61 to 66. More green bars down there as well, as you can see. So as it turns out, the ambiguous nature of tasks 6 and 9 just may have skewed the previous results. So that's really why you need to make sure that the top tasks and the questions and the scenarios that you come up are really unique. They're not duplicating, they're not clashing against each other. Yeah, that pretty much sums up how we felt after hitting our success goal of 70%. That's a beautiful dog. So key takeaways. Firstly, you can't build IAs alone. Teamwork makes the dream work indeed. Had I done this, or even had it just been Karen and myself doing this on our own, it would have taken us months, like literally months, with the help of our product manager, the help of our engineering leads, our marketing manager, and even the engineers within our team. They were just like supporting us all the way. We managed to publish the redesign IA in less than a month. So literally it takes a village to build intuitive and data-driven, user data-driven IAs. Second takeaway is it takes time to get things good. It was super tempting to throw in the towel when we were feeling just a bit lost. But my grandma always says, anything worth doing is worth doing right. It just takes time and patience. You just have to get back on the horse, iterate, retest. So yeah, wise words, Grandma. And lastly, this exercise proves that user-informed, user-focused, user-centric IAs can really go a long way. Intuitive IAs actually go beyond the usual metrics of page views, page ratings, content completeness, content accuracy. It's beyond that. Intuitive IAs essentially make it easier for users to connect to the content itself. Again, you give the user the content that they need, and then you get out of their way so they can go back to doing their work. That's essentially your role. You're a supporting actor in this grand, big movie. So here are the tools and resources that helped us get this done. TreeJack, obviously. It helps you evaluate the findability of topics in your content set. Secondly, usertesting.com. It lets you conduct usability testing and secure key insights towards creating delightful and intuitive products and experiences. Dovetail. It's one of the research tools that we use at Atlassian. We didn't use this though for our portfolio IA project because we already had existing research on hand. So we didn't get to use it, but it's a really cool tool for just research completeness. Plus, there are global communities of people who really care about documentation, just like Button, Confab, Write the Docs, really good communities. These communities and more are super valuable, and they hold heaps of conferences, meetups, events, whereby you can learn about information architecture, content design, and more. And if you're after some training and workshops on content strategy, I definitely recommend checking out Elle Garrity Content Strategy. Elle is a content strategist here in Australia, and she's been working in the field of content strategy for more than 15 years. So definitely check it out, pick her brain on all the things, information architecture and content strategy. And so I leave you with this quote, one of my favorite quotes: findability precedes usability. You can't use what you can't find. If there's anything to take away from this talk, it's that you cannot use what you cannot find. Good IAs are all about making it easy for users to find ABC so they can do XYZ. And with that ends my talk. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you found this useful. Hope that you found this helpful for your own craft as well. It's been a real pleasure, and I look forward to all your questions later on. Ciao.